So we started saving. We then launched, and we were in the bus office, as we call it, for about 6 or 8 weeks. In the meantime, we had decided to set up an immigrant bureau in conjunction with Amy Casey, and it was a very good setup because we put ads in the paper. It was very clear that we weren't promoting it, but we were just dealing with the reality of it. And people were invited to come. If they came, we marked their cards. We told them that they needed to have about 3 weeks supply of working capital to enable them to get digs and get a job.
These are people who are immigrating now?
Yes.
You're advising them how to handle it when they get over there?
And we communicated their names. If they did business with us, we gave them forms, communicated their names. When they arrived in London was the main point. They hadn't expanded out to any of these other major cities in England at the time, but Amy Casey partnered with the outlets in London. And there was a great bit of stuff there. Father John Doe was associated with the Irish Centre, and they knew firsthand the problems with the Irish not getting right jobs and unemployed and drinking and all that sort of thing. But anyhow, when they arrived in London, they were met at the station. They were brought to digs that had been pre-vetted, were fixed up with digs. They were advised to come along the following day to do mock interviews. And when they had got their head around what was required, there were interviews set up for real jobs, real interviews in the next few days, and generally by the end of the week they had a job and they could start work on the Monday, so they had plenty of working time to keep them going.
And did you ever get an idea how many people went through your...
Not that time? Maybe 30, maybe 20, maybe 30.
Maybe 30, yeah. But it's a great help.
It was.
And tell me, when you started collecting money off savers, what kind of money were they handing in?
Very small.
Yeah.
Very interesting point on that now. It's something that slipped in memory. We had a big discussion when we started off the savings group. Now, this is for the people that hadn't launched yet to the public, about what we'd save per week. And someone suggested £1, and someone else suggested 10 shillings, and somebody else suggested 5 shillings. And Tom Duffy listened very, very carefully to the discussion, and eventually he said, lads, a maximum of £0.50 a week. So but he was very influential, so fine. So when we were going out the door, I said to Tom, what was all that about? Oh, he said, look around, we're all ordinary guys, he said. Not everybody has £1 in his pocket at the end of the week or at the beginning of the week, or even 10 shillings either. He said, £0.50, near everybody has £0.50. I don't want anybody feeling they have to miss the study group night because they haven't £1 to save. So,
and did you stick to that policy? Did you stick to that policy?
We stick to the while we were study group now.
Okay,
we stick to the policy of £0.50. After that, you could save whatever you wanted. Now, and we emphasise very well small savings, £1 a week, 10 shillings a week, whatever you could afford. And we emphasise small regular savings, much more important than a few pounds now and a few pounds again. And we built it up from there. And the growth was very, very slow because once the proposition we put to them, it'll be under control by you. You'll have an influence on the policies, and all you have to do is save regularly. Once you're a regular saver, you can borrow. Pay your first loan, there's another loan waiting for you. Keep saving, keep repaying, you're good for thousands and thousands. And that was the proposition that they bought into, and it worked. And I was amazed when I was doing research about 10 or 12 years ago. We were over the moon after 25 years when we reached £500,000. 18 months later, we'd gone over the million mark. Within 3 years, we had hit 4 million. We started to gain traction the big time. And the big boost we got was an Aragon set up in town. And there was a certain personnel officer in Aragon who was a native of Louisburg, which I probably shouldn't mention, but he was a great bit of stuff. And when he caught them in, he marked their card. And by the way, you need to go down and join the credit union. We have a payroll deduction scheme operation. You'll be able to save regularly. And we took off in a big way after that. And we never
I think Jim Kiley had a hand in that, did he? Jim Kiley had a hand in that. You were the manager.
He was. He was very supportive.
He was very supportive.
All the senior staff were supportive. But the man who really gave us the push was Johnny Durkin.
Andy. Andy Durkin, yeah.
And interestingly enough, an awful lot of the people who got jobs in Elgin in the early days, by sheer coincidence, happened to be from the Louisburg area. And another man very active in that area was a guy from Ackle. And a lot of the Ackle people got jobs. Oh, yeah. But they were all encouraged. Go down, the next thing you need to do now is go down and join the credit union and start saving. And as I said, it was great.
So your funds grew then after that, big time, yeah.
We did.
Is it fair to ask you how much you have in the kitty now? That's public knowledge, I suppose. It's public knowledge, is it?
As far as I remember now, we've gone over around 84, 85 million.
Oh, okay, that's some money, yeah.
But
and did you ever have many defaulters? We talk about defaulters and banks.
We have some, but we don't have many. We're very tough with the people who owe us money. If we think they can repay or they're not doing their best, we hung them. Once we're satisfied with doing their best, as long as they keep doing the best they can, we're much more understanding of the banks, but we keep the pressure on until the money comes back.
Now, what kind of penalties can you apply to somebody who isn't coughing up?
Well, we don't actually. We don't apply penal interest. We just hung them and hung them and hung them.
Okay.
So and take them to court, and in some cases, we put people in jail. Largely because we believe they weren't really trying. They weren't messing us around and testing our resolve and said, right, if you want to play hardball, we'll play hardball.
And did people go into jail?
One or two.
One or two?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
that wasn't too bad.
There was a famous court case about 6 or 7 years ago, where the reason why you were sent to court was if you got an instalment order and didn't keep it, the failure to keep the instalment order was regarded as contempt of court. And the courts couldn't allow that kind of thing. But then there was a famous case, and indeed it was the credit union who really shouldn't have taken the case. They gave a series of loans to an unmarried mother, and they never really checked to see if she could pay them or not. And eventually, when things got too much, she went to a smart solicitor, and he entered the defence that she should never have got the money she got. And the case was struck down, and the justice split, and it was all over the place. So, as a result of that, they threatened her with jail. As a result of that, there was legislation brought in that you couldn't be jailed for a contempt of court where it was in connection with an instalment order, but you still can, but it's a much more circuitous.
Well, you don't like to do it. You don't like to do it. Nobody likes that.
The last resort.
And what many locations have you had in town?
Pardon?
How many locations have you had in town?
We've this is an interesting one. We've only, this is our third. Starting the bus office, went to Brige Street, right? In with the Immigrant Bureau. The Immigrant Bureau went on for about 2.5 years when business faded away. We were happy to take over theirs, and then eventually the property next door was bought from the owners of the West. And we expanded into both of them, and we've been there for about 47, 48 years in Brige Street.
In Brige Street,
we were reluctant to move, but no matter how we tried, we couldn't get the area of accommodation required, and this place then came and we got it, and we felt it was a very keen price.
Well, you got it at the right time.
We did,
in the recession,
perfect time, because we were really looking around for an alternative place, and we looked at others, but some of them were in Nama, and we discovered that was a long, drawn-out, tortuous thing, and we didn't really have time. And the fact was that it was a preserved building didn't faze us much at all, because all the major work had been done by the bank before planning permission had been introduced.
Okay.
And we were quite happy to preserve it, the historical significance and the ambience and all that, for the benefit of the community and the members.
Well, it is great for the town that she got it.
It is,
because you preserve it. There'll be no
perfect owner.
Perfect owner, yeah. And it belongs to the people, I suppose, as well, no?
Yes.
Because you're the people.
Community owned.
You're the people, yeah.
Community owned.
And have you had many managers and chairpersons over the year? Can you remember who was?
We've only had one manager. Started off part-time, Francis Gavin.
Yeah.
Evolved to full-time, and then we've expanded the staff quite considerably now in the last 4 or 5 years because of extra legislation and more onerous need for high-level skills in connection with data protection, risk management. Compliance is a huge issue for all financial institutions, largely because of the misbehaviour of the existing ones. So we've done that, and Francis is still going strong, thank God, and very well liked and very popular with the members.
And you have a chairman. You have a chairperson.
The chairperson now is Joan Jennings, and we didn't have that many, maybe about 6, I think.
We can remember the first one. Who was the first one?
I can't remember now exactly, but we could do a bit of research for you. I know very early on, John James Flynn, Tom Flynn's father, was chairman at the very early days. And Paddy Hogan was a long-time chairman. Yeah. And then
a great rugby man as well.
Great rugby man, a great man for the town as well. Great community man in the FCA as well. And he was succeeded by Liam Grant. And Liam continued on for, I'd say, probably 20 years, because he was an excellent chairman, and there was never any issue about, we could never get a better one, so he was re-elected. And then the legislation came in prohibiting, the central bank were concerned about people staying on too long, having too conservative an influence, so they insisted that when the legislation was introduced, any chairman who had been chairman for 4 years previously could not go forward. As well as that, for a credit union of our size, the skill set of the potential chairman had to be assessed by a committee called the nominating committee, and forward to the central bank for assessment and pre-approved by the central bank before they could be elected by the board. So Tom Flynn was the first one. Tom did a year, and John Jennings succeeded him. So I'd say not more than half a dozen in the history of the credit union. Because we got dedicated people who were excellent, and there was no reason to change.
And when did the central bank get involved in all this?
Central bank about 7 or 8 years ago. Again,
they had nothing to do with you prior to that, no?
No,
nothing.
No, we weren't, because we were set up under the Industrial and Provident Societies Act. The Credit Union Act, the first Credit Union Act, 1966, was under the auspices of the Credit Union, of the thing. The 1997 Act, we moved out into our own space. It's completely self-standing legislation, not relying on any of the powers or provisions of the Industrial and Friendly Societies Act. But they had been a great place to develop and to nurture, and the Registrar of Friendly Societies was our regulator, and he had a different approach. The central bank, very much bankers having a regard to the previous scandals and ensuring that there was no ever going to be a repetition. So they are very rigorous in their approach.
And have many societies or branches failed?
No, they're coming down rapidly, because there's what they call a restructuring drive, spearheaded by the central bank and by also market developments, the legislation, the extensive skill sets required by people, the amount of work they have to put in, the amount of learning they have to do. There's this concept, as you're well aware yourself, has been from the medical profession, probably started. Continuous CPD, continuous personal development, doing refresher courses all the time, having to prove to people that you're up to speed all the time. So we have that kind of regime now applied to us, and that's over 15 hours a week, 15 hours a year, but 15 hours, you get credit for 15 hours, but it takes you about at least 30 to acquire it. So credit unions are finding it difficult in the smaller areas with smaller pools of population to get the people with the higher level skills now. The pool is smaller. So there's about, in the Republic there's about, I think, something over 309 and they think it'll probably, in the next 2 to 3 years, it'll come down to about 250, 60. And most of them will be in excess of 100 million capital.
Are you much different to a bank now?
Well, we are. The big difference is the cooperative philosophy which we subscribe to. Really, the big difference is banks give collateral-based credit. If you can't produce collateral. Now, in recent years, they have moved away from that a bit, but generally that's the way they approach it. We're character-based credit, and we take into account the person's character is the primary thing, and their ability to pay. There's great emphasis now on ability to pay because of the subprime mortgages and that, where mortgages and loans and credit were given to people whom the lenders knew couldn't pay. Now you have to, the credit directors and the legislation insists you must be able to, you must assess them, and you must be able to prove on paper that they've been assessed, and there must be objective documentary evidence of their income and their capacity to pay, and details of their existing loans so they don't overcommit themselves with repaying their credit, so they don't have enough left to live on.
Wasn't that the basic tenets of the banks longer, the ability to pay? Yeah. They suspended that, didn't they?
That's right.
That's what got them into trouble. Absolutely, yeah. So you're looking forward to the big day tomorrow?
Yeah.
Tell me this, you're a Castlebar man?
Not really, I'm a Morris Command man.
Morris, you're living in Castlebar.
I'm living in Castlebar.
I was going to say, what do you know if you're in Westport?
And I'm maroon now in Castlebar. Which is the real Castlebar woman.
But you've done a great job, obviously, over the years. And
well, it's a great hobby, it's a great interest.
You must have got a great kick out of it, haven't you? You did,
great satisfaction, and people said you were great. As far as I'm concerned, I wasn't. If I wasn't getting satisfaction, I wouldn't be doing it.
You have great enthusiasm, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I believe in it, all right. It puts fire in my belly still.
Good.